I signed Escape, every one of them, up for Sound Exchange. And I sent all the paperwork. And Tamika, I did Latasha, everybody. And Tamika told me, when we filled out the paperwork, she was living in New York then. And I still have the paperwork. And I filled it out, and I put it, her address was all in New York and everything. Tamika, my Tamika had gotten her checks, and it was a pretty big check then. I'm thinking it was like close to $20,000 the first time. They got a lot of checks though. And Tamika said, I didn't get my checks. And I said, well, you should have. I said, because Tamika's gotten several checks already. And so we called up to Sound Exchange. Me and Tamika was on the line. And we talked to, this guy's name was Joe Mo Grady. I think he's passed away, but back then he was the person we talked to. And he talked to Tamika, and she asked him questions about her checks. And he told her that her checks were going to Hampton, Georgia. And so after that, she said, well, I live in New York. How did this happen? And he sent her copies of the checks. I mean,
he sent copies.
He said something about your sister and Rocky. Edward Bivens, because I really didn't know Rocky's name.
Right, he said Edward Bivens cashed your checks. But how was I supposed to get my money back?
The only way you could get your money back is you had to prosecute them. And you said, I don't want to do that.
Once we did do the investigation, well, they sent information. Someone sent in, which was my sister, and I will be showing that in a second. She changed the contract and put her name on the contract saying that she was my manager. And you're going to see that in a second. And then they put they sent my passport. It was a lot of stuff.
I know he said, that they had proof. They thought it was you and everything. But there's only reason that you couldn't get your money back is you would have to prosecute them.
No one has a reason to lie. And you're going to see with the receipts. And if it wasn't for Miss Diane, none of us, me, Candy, my sister, Tiny, nobody would have gotten these checks from Sound Exchange. If it wasn't for you finding out about that royalty.
My husband with the TAMs, I signed them up, and that's how I found out about it. And our business managers in New York told me about it. So that's kind of how I knew about Sound Exchange.
Thank you for doing that, because we're still getting checks today.
That's good. Get them checks.
Yes, love you. Thank you.
I love Tasha still. I mean, I love her. I mean, I would never lie on none of y'all.
I know.
I love y'all.
I know.
Y'all my babies.
Somehow, my information was changed.